Ladies, gentlemen, non-binary folks everywhere, welcome to Action and Adventure, the Hasbro Universe podcast. Please hold your applause. I'm your host, Daniel.
And I'm your other host, Callum.
And today, we have a great round of books for you.
Yeah.
This is a great week for us. Really. I don't know any other way to put it other than it's just a really solid week. Even the worst book we have is, surprisingly not that bad.
Yeah, well, yeah, by its own standards, it's not that bad, yeah.
Yes, because, ladies and gentlemen, this is a M.A.S.K week, and yet, it's a great week. That's when you know it's a good week. So, we have a bunch of books to talk to you about. First off, ROM vs. Transformers, Shining Armor, a book that I have been so excited about, and the wait has been worth it. Then we have M.A.S.K number 8, which takes us into the depths of the earth, where nightmares begin. Then we have Clue number 2, continuing the investigation of who killed who. Then we have Transformers, Lost Light number 8, an actually surprisingly good story, but that continues the quest for Cyber Utopia. And last but not least, we have Revolutionaries number 6, M.A.S.K versus the Atomic Man.
Great stuff.
Yes.
In all seriousness, the average quality of books on this show is pretty high.
Oh yeah.
Probably in terms of the shows we've done, I'd say maybe the highest kind of average quality of any kind of chunk of books we've done, maybe even.
Oh yeah, and we're certainly not a negative bunch, me and Callum, but, there are times where books have just been very meh. This is just a really good week, and we're going to revel in it. So first off, let's talk about one of the big standouts, ROM vs. Transformers, Shining Armor, number 1. Now, this, of course, is the big crossover that Alex Milne has been teasing for a few months now, and it is finally here. This sees a Cybertronian Space Knight introduced into the mythos, a brand new character, and takes us 200 years into the past of the Hasbro universe from where we currently are to see the first meeting between ROM and the Cybertronians. Callum, what did you think of this issue?
Oh, well, yeah, it's such a good issue. From when this series was announced, I was pretty sure that it was going to be really good because, that creative team, it wasn't going to be bad. John Barber is great, Christos Gage is great, Alex Milne is great, Josh Perez is great. So, you were never going to go, totally wrong with them. But, yeah, they really have they've knocked it out of the park with this. Everything, the art is fantastic. Yeah, the story is enjoyable and, kind of well-conceived as well. Because, I think Star Drive, our, Cybertronian Space Knight, is a really great, kind of a really well-conceived point of view character for the series, because she's both she is both a space knight and a transformer at once, but she's also an outsider to both the Space Knights and the Transformers at once. So it kind of makes the series kind of accessible either way around. If you had been reading ROM but not Transformers, you are kind of guided into it through the fact that it's starting off kind of with the Solstar Order, and they're the kind of way in. But equally, if you're a Transformers only reader, you have this grounding point of, she's a Transformer, she's from Caminus, such and such, and that's your kind of way in. So really well kind of conceived, even on kind of a fundamental level, I thought. And it's a really great issue, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's one of the big things that anyone who has not yet read this issue, please go out and do so, because, and I understand why there was some why there's been a lot of hesitancy from ROM or Transformers fans, because Revolution's one thing, it's a massive crossover and everyone's kind of in there, but ROM vs. Transformers very much is ingrained in both the Transformers universe and the ROM universe. But at the same time, they knew that they had to make it accessible to fans of either franchise. And as a fan of both franchises, to me, this is like the ultimate experience. It is great for Transformers fans as an introduction into the world of ROM and the Solstar Order, and it is great for fans of ROM as an introduction, especially because it goes back in the past, and so we don't have to deal with the that's the thing. It can be in that status quo of Transformers, Autobots versus Decepticons, good guys versus bad guys. Whereas the current landscape of Transformers is not that status quo. That's the thing that makes it appealing to a lot of people. But the fact is, if you want to hook people who only have a baseline of understanding of Transformers but are fans of ROM, having that main conflict be present, I think was incredibly important, and I think it's one of the big strengths of this issue. And of course, the others, one of the other big strengths of the issue is the character of Stardrive, who is just adorable.
She's great. Yeah.
I mean, easily one of my favorite, one of my new favorite characters, already. And I knew I was going to love her because she's a Space Knight and a Transformer. But it's you really feel for her, because like a lot of John Barber's stuff, the whole issue is narrated by Stardrive, and you get to see her when she was born, and she's sort of taken in by ROM and by the Solstar Order. But of course, in the IDW universe, it's been established that to the vast majority of the universe, Transformers and Cybertronians are seen as monsters. And so you have this young child basically taken in by these people and says, hey, all of your kind are monsters. They just wipe out everything in their path. But thanks to us and our better, more improved society, we can teach you how to be, we can teach you to be better and all that. But then, no one accepts her in this new society either. They say they do, but Livia is untrustworthy of her. The new Space Knight recruits, which I really like seeing the Space Knight cadets, because that's one of those things that we really haven't seen a lot of in ROM's main series. We got a taste of it in the ROM annual, but that was before the whole space. But that was before they had Space Knight armor. So I liked getting to see all these new Space Knight cadets. And really, it's Stardrive's kind of personal story that really is the through line for this, and that's what really makes the story as good as it is.
Well, yeah, because I'm saying kind of just on a base level, the idea of having a Transformer Space Knight is a really great, that alone is a really great idea. But then when you, bring in the idea of she's a Transformer Space Knight that was raised by the Solstar Order to believe that her species is inherently violent, and it's just sort of wow, okay, oh my goodness, the storytelling possibilities. It goes from, as well as being kind of, a big, ROM versus Transformers crossover, it's also kind of an intimate character piece for Stardrive so far, which is kind of, it's really cool.
And I think one of the other strengths about this issue is, while it's mostly ROM stuff, outside of Stardrive herself, it's pretty much entirely in the Solstar Order and entrenched in that. And the only bits of Transformers lore that are really in this are the Galactic Council, which readers of More Than Meets the Eye are familiar with. And then at the end, when it's revealed that the Dire Wraiths have allied themselves with Starscream and the Decepticons, and then on the very last page when Ultra Magnus and Bumblebee show up. So that's the thing. It's not trying to immediately jump into and have, make sure that everybody's satisfied, everybody's satisfied. It very much, is, it does the crossover well without, being forced into the crossover, in my opinion.
Kind of, everything sort of is in its right place. Everything sort of debuts when it ought to. We're not sort of on page one, it's not kind of straight into smashing all the toys together yet, which isn't good. It's nice. Yeah. we spend a nice. We've spent basically a whole issue just kind of getting to know Star Drive before we launch into the kind of the actual kind of crossover story plot, which is nice because now we have kind of a stake in Star Drive, like so much. Like need to protect Star Drive.
Yes, she's a precious baby. And I think I would be remiss if I didn't say that, a lot of people were not happy to see Jack Lawrence come onto Lost Light. I was not one of those people. I thought he was a fine artist, and I think he did a good job. But man, oh man, is it good to have Milne back. It is so nice to see Milne back drawing a book. Especially because, I feel like Alex Milne really excels with drawing the non, he excels at drawing Transformers, but he also excels at drawing just aliens in general. That's the thing. We see a bunch of unique and interesting alien designs for just the other members of the Solstar Order and such, and it's this is really and we saw that a bit. We saw that a few times in More Than Meets the Eye, but I feel like this is really allowing him allow him to stretch his legs and try some new things. And quite frankly, I love the way he draws Rom. It is so dynamic, so Milne, it's so Alex Milne. I love it.
I think I said this on Twitter once or twice, but I think it's really cool the way, because kind of Rom is such kind of a kind of clean, sort of reasonably simple design, he always kind of, his design always kind of brings out the particular style of an artist when they draw it. And sort of like you're saying, Rom here, you can look at that Rom and say, oh yeah, that is a really Alex Milne Rom. I'd be hard pressed to say why, but kind of, it's an Alex Milne Rom.
I think it's the head actually that really makes it stand out, because he draws Rom with just these very solid eyes, like very solid round eyes, and he lets the visor do a lot of the expression, the moving of Rom's head and creating that sort of angle, where the visor covers the eyes to create a glare. But he keeps the round eyes. I think that's one of the really interesting things I picked up on when I was reading this book.
And whilst we're talking about the art as well, it's worth talking about the fact that I believe this book is being done kind of Marvel method, where Barbara and Gage kind of plot it, and then Milne draws it, and then the writers go back and write the dialogue, which is kind of it's cool when books do that, because it does kind of, it allows the artist's kind of storytelling skills to come to the fore as well.
Well, I think the way they did it was because I read an interview with Barber, and he talked about this, where basically they gave him sort of this all this happens on this page, all this happens on this page, but as far as the layouts and the panels and all that was entirely Milne, and Milne brings his A game in this book. And of course he's complemented with fantastic colors by Josh Perez, so bright and crisp and just really great colors. Everything really pops, and it definitely has the makings of a really good cosmic book. I really like it.
Yeah, Milne and Perez are kind of a very nice match with kind of lines and colour, and it's a pity kind of you don't get more of it. Off the top of my head, the only they did lots of covers together for More Than Meets the Eye, but have they done that many interiors together? Maybe the first Drift mini Perez. I shall check.
Yeah, check on that.
And yes,
okay.
It was.
right.
But yeah, they're kind of they pair nicely together. But yeah, kind of a book that is very kind of visually impressive as a result.
Yeah. Oh, and can I just say, it's really fun to go back and really get to see evil Starscream, like full on evil Starscream. Because I mean, you could argue Starscream's always been this way, but it's like this is, and that it goes back to what I was saying about going back to that traditional Transformer status quo. But that's the thing, we get to see guys like Starscream is just classic, evil Starscream. We get to revisit characters who have died, like Bumblebee and like the Coneheads, because
the Coneheads. They've had an interesting kind of run of it in IDW, haven't they?
Yeah, Thrust and Ramjets, because they're in this book, and Blitzwing, who is currently being vivisected.
Wait, because who? I see. It is Thrust, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Dirge is not there.
Well, it looks like Dirge might be in. In the
actually, background. Silhouettes there. I see.
Yeah. So.
I guess That's joined unexpectedly by two characters from that Chinese MMO. Was that the one called Transformers Online? Or one of the ones Transformers Online. But yeah, that was kind of unexpected, and I think one of them is referred to by the name, well, the English name that they acquired from Ask Vector Prime.
Yeah, good old AVP.
Which is, I think I said this kind of the day the issue came out, but I think it is possibly the kind of first time, by my reckoning, that something from Ask Vector Prime has sort of made its way into kind of mainstream, quote unquote, Transformers stuff.
Yeah.
So Ursa Major is referred to by name. So. And if you're going to have kind of crowd filler Decepticons that are mostly there to get killed, that's kind of a neat place to pick them from. So.
Yeah. That's the thing. They're not just generics; they are characters, but culled from a very obscure source. So. Yeah.
Whilst I'm looking at that panel as well, I do like the Blitzwing has got his goggles from Animated. That's a cute touch.
Yeah. Good old Blitzwing. Most of this issue is really dealing with Star Drive as a character, and so we're not just going to straight up read you this issue. But they are teasing, like, that's the thing, like, they've set up a lot of stuff. Star Drive and her whole dynamic with both the Solstar Order and the Cybertronians, particularly both the Autobots and Decepticons, because her first meeting with Transformers is with the Decepticons, but then some Autobots come in, so it's like, first impression of the Decepticons, especially Starscream of all people, it's not a great first impression of the rest of your species, let's face it.
Well, those couple of panels with her and Starscream sort of got pressed up against a wall. Oh, what kind of monster are you? And then Starscream kicks her through a wall. And he's a goal-orientated monster.
Oh, and I love on the last page, Starscream raises his null rays at Ultra Magnus and Bumblebee, who have guns raised, and there's just Rom in the background saying, "Wait, this was to be a mission of peace." It's like, man, Rom just cannot catch a break for. Oh, and this was 200 years ago, man. I feel bad for him.
I think it's technically supposed to be closer to like 180. I think I remember reading, because I mean, full 200, like. Rom would have only just been like space knighted, I think, isn't it?
True.
Actually, because I forget what was the specific dating of when Thunderwing ruined Cybertron, because that was also 200-ish years ago, but I forget precisely. So I think it was about like 500-ish years ago. Possibly, but Thunderwing has wrecked Cybertron by this point. So I guess the war has moved off of Cybertron, and it's actually I suppose one thing that we may or may not learn during the series is this Minimus Ambus or not inside the Magnus armor? I'm guessing probably yes, but
yeah, I feel like it is. I feel like it's going to be. But yes, so Starscream is allied with some dire wraiths, and Stardrive is now, and the Solstar Order is now caught up in the Cybertronian War. So, what will come next? We'll just have to read and find out.
Well, we do know that we're going to find out what happens when a dire wraith infests a Transformer, which has been being teased since Revolution, I think. I'm sure that comes up.
It was the 4th issue of ROM. They teased.
Oh, actually, it was in ROM even. Yeah.
Yeah. They mentioned that they avoid that dire wraiths typically avoid Cybertronians. This is going to explain that, and I'm excited. This is a great series. If you're a Transformers fan, go read it. If you're a ROM fan, go read it. If you don't care about either of those franchises, I'd still say go read it. Like, if you just like science fiction, it's great.
Yeah, and as kind of a last thing as well, I will also say, if you're a Transformers fan and read this and did like it, I recommend reading the ROM Annual 2017, if you haven't already. Because it's a nice little sort of standalone origin story for ROM. You can read it without having read any of the ROM ongoing. And yeah, so it's set a little while before this series and explains how ROM and Livia and co came to be Space Knights. And it's a really fantastic issue on its own. But yeah, would give you some nice relevant backstory for ROM in this series.
Yeah, because you really don't need to know what's happening in the current ROM series to know like what's going on here. So yeah, I definitely would say if you want to go back and read any ROM, read the annual, and then if you like the annual, go and pick up the main series. The first 2 trades have so far been released, so
And yeah, it's been one of the kind of most consistently strong of the Transformers Hasbro books. I can highly recommend.
I actually would say it's probably, like, while Revolutionaries is still my favorite because of just all the balls-to-the-wall awesomeness that goes on in there, I'd say ROM on its own is probably the most consistently well-done series. Because Micronauts has had its ups and downs. Yeah. Same with the Transformers series. Same with G.I. Joe. But ROM has consistently... And I don't think that's just my bias.
There's not really been any bad issues of ROM, I would say. It's every issue on its own is always at least enjoyable to at least some degree. Yeah.
All right. Well, moving on from a great comic to surprisingly just meh comic, we have M.A.S.K number 8.
So yeah, we got a new storyline starting after the origin of Venom. We're now back. Well, it had present day bookends, but we're back to sort of the present day and proper. For a story about M.A.S.K fighting giant underground monsters, but they're totally different giant underground monsters to the ones in G.I. Joe at the minute, and they're also not Inhumanoids. So yeah,
I cannot believe that IDW played us like this. Giant underground monsters in G.I. Joe. Giant underground monsters in M.A.S.K. G.I. Joe, M.A.S.K. 2 always interconnected franchises. Clearly, there's going to be something. And then, nope. No Inhumanoids. No connection. Just random.
It's so odd. It's so very odd.
You've got to admit, it's a weird coincidence if it's coincidence. But that's the thing. This issue was... I hesitate to call it the best issue of M.A.S.K, but it's a surprisingly okay issue. Like, it didn't do anything that really made me angry, like, when I was reading it.
Yeah, there is some, like, dreadful dialogue, but I'm talking, like, 1 or 2 lines at most. And the story doesn't contradict itself. And there's some quite fun stuff like, Sean Berger from, Megatron's Master Plan? I don't know my G1 cartoon that well.
Here, I'll look it up. But yes, the main antagonist of this issue is a Transformers character named Sean Berger, or Berger, I'm not sure. Yes, from the two-parter Megatron's Master Plan.
And he's a dire wraith.
Yes,
he's a really strange plan.
Yes, like, I'll be honest, I only read this issue once. I didn't go back and reread it. Like, I flipped through it when but I didn't go back and actually reread it for the podcast. But yeah, it's another one of those weird moments where rather than drawing on M.A.S.K, the M.A.S.K comic draws on Transformers for its kind of main crux, which is something that I just don't quite just because it feels like it's been done so often, it's more noticeable to me, and and I really have to wonder, don't get me wrong, M.A.S.K is not great, but is there really nothing to pull from? I don't know. I don't get it, but yes.
But then it's also never gone so far as to actually star kind of a Transformer as an actual character, which surely it could if you wanted it.
Oh yeah.
I doubt.
Well, there is
he would be disallowed from using a Transformer in it. Yeah. We have a cameo in this issue, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. There's the cameo of Omega Supreme, but there's I guess that Blitzwing plot still hasn't been picked up from Revolution. So
I don't expect Blitzwing to be brought up in M.A.S.K. That M.A.S.K is just sort of essentially completely divorced from anything that happens in Revolution at this point.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But yeah, so we've got so over in G.I. Joe we've got the Fatal Fluffies, which we've not quite learned their origin story yet, other than there's this cave of eggs.
Yeah.
But here we've got Sean Berger, the Dire Wraith, who is using Or-13 to mutate regular creatures into weird giant creatures to make an army to take over the world or something.
Which I would say Dire Wraiths don't work that way, except they're magic, so I guess they can do that. There was at least an issue of the Marvel run where they did where they started mutating ants, so it has precedent.
But yeah, and he is kind of using the Or-13 or something, isn't he? But I do quite like that sort of this whole thing across all the Hasbro books of just the Dire Wraiths aren't this just big kind of amorphous hive mind. There do seem to be just dozens of Dire Wraiths off doing their own goofy little plots for world domination, like the kind of Cobra-anarchists in G.I. Joe, and this guy in M.A.S.K. Yeah, I do quite like that we getting lots of sort of individual Dire Wraiths rather than just Dire Wraith number 23 kind of thing.
Yeah.
And there's some and compared to M.A.S.K's track record, there's some reasonably impressive kind of continuity stuff in here. So after whatever the hell the deal was with Dr. Mindbender, where it just seemed to completely ignore anything to do with his previous IDW appearances, here Zartan is it's really consistent. It ties into his origin story, which got told in I think in a 3-parter in the G.I. Joe Origins ongoing story, which is he's a shapeshifter made with this plasmid stuff, and he gets some plasmid yanked out of him this issue, and it's okay, you've done your homework here. And this one, I'm not sure if it's a coincidence or not, but they are underneath Mount St. Helens, and it's full of Or-13. And back in Spotlight Soundwave, Bludgeon and the gang were holed up inside Mount St. Helens, trying to harvest Or-13 / Ultra Energon. So is that deliberate? It could just be a coincidence. I'm not sure how willing I am to give Easton the credit for that, but even if it's accidental, it does line up. And it is this is a surprisingly okay issue of M.A.S.K.
Yeah, I will say it's still not like great because
no, like by M.A.S.K standards, I am talking here, like absolutely.
Right. Well, one thing that definitely like that I definitely felt was off was Zartan. So he shows up, replaces Brad in issue 5. Issue 6 and 7 are flashback issues.
He is hanging around the base being suspicious of it in the bookends bit, but yeah, otherwise. Yes,
but that was only in issue 7. There is only a single issue of this book actually actually did anything with the whole Zartan replace Brad. And now in this issue, the M.A.S.K team knows that Zartan replaced Brad, and there's like 2 issues left. One of them, which is the continuation of this story, it's like I wonder if it's just a symptom of Easton not like realizing that he was going to get cut short, or if this, I don't know if this was bad planning on IDW's part, if this was, Easton like writing out a big 5-part opening arc and then having to rush through like certain plots that he had wanted to set up. But it's like the flow of this, like just thinking in terms of the whole series, the flow of this is pitiful, quite frankly.
Yeah, I haven't really thought about it, but yeah, you're right. The sort of Zartan's story here is
like unless something from this like comes into play in Joe Unmasked, it seems to me like the whole Zartan thing was entirely pointless. I don't know. Maybe it'll come into play in the 10th issue, but like as of right now, it just seems it really feels like Easton had planned like all these stories in advance, and then did the first 5 issues, and then was like, "Hey, you're getting cut to 10," and then was like, And quite frankly, I don't know that this story necessarily needed to be stretched out into 2 parts. Like that's the thing, when I got to the end and was like, to be continued, I was like, really? You only have 2 issues left after this, and one of them is going to be just the continuation. This feels like it should have been a done in one, quite frankly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things where it's not it doesn't offend my sense of continuity. It doesn't the dialogue is I've just gotten used to the cringy dialogue at this point, but it's one of those things where this is definitely the least bad issue of M.A.S.K, but it's also the least interesting issue of M.A.S.K, and quite frankly, it's another issue of M.A.S.K, and I am glad the series is coming to an end.
One thing I will say with this issue is we've got another line artist, the 3rd, to work on the series, and unfortunately probably the weakest lines, I would say, so far in the series. There are some really odd-looking faces in this issue.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Then who was the artist on the Venom flashbacks? The 6 and 7. Those were.
I shall check.
And the third issue.
Yeah. Juan Samu.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, he had some pretty weird faces. Although, I will say
they felt slightly more kind of deliberately weird. I don't know. It felt that. Yeah, some of the odd faces with them just seemed kind of more just stylized in an odd way. Whereas there are some in this issue where it's just kind of you kind of aimed and missed there.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I just didn't pay close enough attention. But now that you pointed it out, I'm actually seeing it. Yeah,
no,
it's like with Samu, it was 1 or 2 faces would just be like, what is going on? Like that Nick Cage tracker one. But but this is like every panel is weird.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, it's.
I don't think the kind of really gradiented style that Jordi Askew and the colorist does it any favors either.
Oh, certainly. I am not a fan of the coloring at all.
I don't know. I don't mind it, but yeah, some of the kind of in this issue, there's lots of places where it's sort of the colorist has sort of applied form to the line art on faces that kind of just makes them look even weirder, frankly.
Yeah, and quite frankly, you know, it's like I'm not really a huge fan of the way Drew Moss draws the vehicles either. They just seem really plain to me. So.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Kind of
like that thing, like the jackhammer is like literally just some boxes. It's like that. At least the past artists have drawn them to look like vehicles. You know.
Yeah, I see what you mean. They're sort of geometrically simpler compared to like if you look at like someone like Fico Ossio drawing the M.A.S.K vehicles.
Oh, man, kind of Fico,
gorgeous, like these kind of gorgeous, curvy, shiny things. Yeah.
I cannot wait to see how Nelson Daniel draws the Thunderhawk. Oh my god.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
I think he's. Yeah. But yeah, so M.A.S.K. It's M.A.S.K. What do you expect at this point?
It's a better M.A.S.K than usual, but it's still kind of just M.A.S.K.
Yeah.
Actually, before we move on, I've just now noticed the kind of because I think is that checkpoint that they go past near the start of the issue to go fight the big octopus monster thing. Is that like I think that's supposed to be like a G.I. Joe checkpoint because like the person apparently knows who Scarlet is, and I think those are Vamps, those G.I. Joe jeeps parked next to it.
Oh yeah, those are definitely Vamps.
Yeah, I had not noticed that before.
Okay, yeah, those are definitely Vamps. Yeah, that's the thing. Apparently that whole M.A.S.K being wanted by the government thing. Apparently that got cleared up.
Oh, actually, yeah, I forgot about that. And so did the book. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Maybe you could finagle that. Oh, they caught Venom and Venom. So like, you know, Venom was the one framing them. It's like that was not explored like at all. Like, really was not. It's actually kind of incredible. That whole plot point just gets friggin' dropped.
Oh wow! Like, I feel bad now we're about to move on, but I've also just noticed that a couple of pages later, when Brad uses his mask to do like spooky. Well, no, yeah, when the mask overloads and a bunch of spooky-looking holograms come out, those are actually all kind of characters. I think, like one of them is Optimus Prime, and one of them is sort of cartoon Cobra Commander.
One of them. See, this. Okay, actually, I noticed this. One of them actually looks like a, like one of the Marvel Dire Wraiths, actually. The one with the long tongue. That is like a straight up Marvel Dire Wraith. Yeah.
And then there's one just sort of gremlin, goblin looking one on the left, and something that I can't really figure out what I'm looking at on the far right.
It seems like some sort of like brain,
Well, yeah, that's what I was thinking.
It's like it's some sort of brain monster or something. I'm sure that's from something, but yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like seeing the straight up Marvel Dire Wraith made me think that the goblin thing was that supposed to be like a Skrull or like what was up? What was up with that? But yeah. Anyways,
so yeah, moving on.
M.A.S.K garbage. But better garbage. Less garbage this time. Let's move on to Clue. This issue picks up, where the last one left off. Continues the mystery. Although I will say I will take back what I said the last time we talked about Clue about reading it in trade, because actually this really does play well with the comic book serial nature of the individual releases.
Yeah, I think I kind of briefly sort of wondered aloud about that last time, didn't I? But yeah, it really does it makes a point of kind of being self-aware. specifically about the fact that it's a comic book being published every month.
Yeah. This issue basically, after the basic setup of the first issue, which featured our first two victims, this one now gets into the sort of the questioning, the who has motivation, sort of getting into the background of the characters, as any good mystery novel should. That's the thing, and this really does follow the typical mystery novel kind of beats, but executes them very well. And actually, one thing I really like is that in getting to know sort of all the guests, we learn that it's a really it's a very diverse cast in this book.
Mm.
Yeah, we got because like Professor Plum, for instance, is a gay Pakistani man, and and I realized in the last issue, Detective Amarillo, her wife is mentioned. So it's like, so we have lots of characters of color, we have lots of characters of different sexualities, and I really like that fact.
Yeah, I've enjoyed kind of some of the other kind of Hasbro stuff as well, but it's just been sort of casually diverse, like Rom having two mums. It's nice when stuff like that happens.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and there's no attention drawn to it. It's just how it is, and I really like it. But yeah, so Callum, what did you think of this issue overall?
Yeah, it's a nice issue, isn't it? Like, yeah, the Nelson Daniel art continues to be really nice. Like, it's stylized in a really appealing way. And I hadn't really realised before, but I've just now realised I think he is colouring his own work, isn't he? Because it's just art by Nelson Daniel.
Oh yeah, yeah, he's inking and coloring it.
Yes, and it's a very nice looking book, and yeah, we start to get into the sort of the meat of the kind of the mystery. We start learning that Mr. Body was in fact blackmailing, or had blackmail material on all of the guests, apart from poor Miss Scarlet, who you are made to feel rather sorry for in this issue.
Yeah,
because she the person of least interest.
Yeah, which that is actually something that I believe comes from the movie version of Clue, was the fact that that it was revealed that Mr. Body was blackmailing everyone. That sort of gives them all motive. But yeah, like that's the thing. It's really, it's mostly getting to know the characters and like learning some background.
Yeah.
And sort of playing, setting up the suspicions of who, like, because currently the detectives believe that Professor Plum killed Mr. Body, but obviously we don't know that for sure because we still got 3 issues to go. And it's also setting up, one thing that I like is it's not just the murder mystery, because there's also the mysteries with these flowers. Flowers that Mr. Body was apparently growing, which and it's not explained in this issue, but it's like apparently has some sway. Like Upton says, "But what is this mysterious flower that holds so much sway over our cast of characters? I promise, dear reader, that next month's issue will bring the answers to your questions."
So you see what we were saying about the comic being aware that it is a monthly comic book.
Yes. Yeah. Which I do wonder if they'll change the format of that, like in the in the trade. That's the thing. I kind of want to get the trade just to see if they make any changes and all that.
Talking about print and things. Did you get this issue in print?
I did.
So does it have a sort of like bonus page thing going on again?
It does not.
Okay.
I think it was just that first issue that they were doing the whole bonus page, which one of the I don't have my I didn't flip back through my other copies because I bought the first one digitally when we talked about it, and we got the same post back matter scene.
Yeah.
But of course, I went and got the other two variants in print, and so yeah, I included. I think one of them had like the flower or something in it. So yeah, but the main one that we both had is like that scene is mentioned in here, but not in any sort of way that's like you needed to read it, you know?
Yeah, kind of.
So
I think
I like that.
The bonus pages were characterized as sort of little kind of like extra clues rather than sort of vital story material or anything like that.
Yeah. So, but it does foreshadow the whole. And that's the thing. And I'm starting, and it's like when there's that picture of the flower, I was like, wait, that was the flower in one of the other previews. So it's like, so that's the thing. It's definitely like, I'm definitely looking, sort of paying attention to what's going on. But of course, Callum, this is a mystery. So the question is, who do you think did it?
I don't know. Well, I mean,
okay, just like what's your current guess? I want to track these through the episodes. What's your current guess right now?
I don't know. I mean, Plum and Orchid seem to kind of be eliminated. Well, at least, yeah, assuming it is one person doing murders and not like everyone having a go at different people. Like, you'd think that Plum and Orchid are eliminated now because they explicitly leave the room, and then the detective says, "Oh, hello," to somebody else, who then comes in and murders him. So you'd figure it's not them. Which then, who have you got there? I don't know. It's a tricky one. I mean, I'm tempted just right now to say Mr. Green, but that's just because, like, he's terrible.
Yeah. And to me, again, like I said last time we talked about Clue, I was kind of a mystery reader when I was younger, so I read a lot of mysteries. So that's the thing. I was like, Mr. Green is terrible, but he seems like such an obvious red herring.
But yeah, I was going to say that. Yeah, he's so terrible.
But at the same time, we're living in the age where it's all about subverting expectations. So the obvious red herring should obviously be the killer. So my current theory, and granted, this could be me going back to that whole, everything's got to subvert. My current theory is Miss Scarlet.
Well, yeah, I was going to say otherwise maybe Miss Scarlet, because she has been deliberately set up as the person of least interest.
And the one thing that I'm not sure if you picked up on was the fact that her request to Upton, when all the characters are requesting something, her request is flowers.
Yeah.
That to me has to be, that's a clue. I think that's a clue. I think she's not as innocent as she seems. She's definitely not as innocent as she seems. Whether she's a killer or not, I don't know. But currently, if I had to guess, my money's on her. So
okay, yeah.
Yes, overall, Clue. Like, if you're not, it's a fun read. Like, if you're not reading it, definitely recommend it. If you've got an extra $4 to plop down,
Yeah, no, it is. Well, so far 2 issues. It is consistently sort of very enjoyable.
Yeah.
And I do love this Nelson Daniel art. I'm really excited now for seeing him on G.I. Joe Unmasked, because I love how it looks. Yeah, kind of. It's a really cool kind of stylization, and the sort of dot shading kind of thing. I don't know how to properly describe that, but the kind of shading is really cool, and it's just a nice sort of aesthetic.
Moving on, Transformers Lost Light number 8. This is probably my favorite issue of Lost Light so far, like, in all seriousness, because this is kind of what I really like from More Than Meets the Eyes. Advancing sort of the main plot, but also with little bits of characterization and all that. So this is pretty much a girls' night out kind of issue.
It kind of basically is, that one stock episode of every Western cartoon where all the female characters go and do a thing for one episode.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, it's kind of the girls go to the mall, only it's like this one, involves like a lot of the insanity that you expect to come along with the Lost Light crew. But one of the big things this did was give us a lot of character for Anode and Lug, who have really been not very well have been they've been like, from what I can gather on the Transformers fans, some people really like them, some people didn't, felt like they were unnecessary. This really got into them and really gave them a lot more character, and I think it was desperately needed.
Yeah. I would agree that they've certainly been kind of underdeveloped up to this point in terms of they've mostly just been hanging around whilst Anode makes kind of quips occasionally. And we get a bit more meat on the bones in terms of characterization, and we start to get by the end we have some idea that they are actually going to be factoring into the kind of core myth arc of the book.
Yeah. Well, I feel like the biggest issue that they had in the first 6 or 7 issues was just the fact that we had those issues were just crammed with so much. We were constantly jumping back and forth between the Functionist universe and the Necro world and all the different characters on the Necro world and all that. It just felt like too much. With this issue, we're drawing in smaller. We're focusing on 4 main principal characters, and they are getting to kind of do and that's the thing, and it's allowing for a lot more characterization with a lot more room to breathe. And I think the big thing. Let's go ahead and just get this and go ahead and talk about this. One of the big things is that it's revealed that Lug and Anode are Cybertronians. Now, how can we have female Cybertronians based on the complicated history of gender in the IDW universe? Well, I'll tell you how. They're transgender! We have transgender robots, which correct me if I'm wrong, but outside of RC, I believe this is the first in the IDW universe?
It's kind of the first time it's been kind of directly addressed, almost.
Yes, I should say.
Yeah, at this point, it is sort of implicit at this point that RC is trans, but
yes,
this is the first time the subject has kind of been directly discussed.
Yes,
and so we learn that they were born on Cybertron after sort of Nova Prime's era, so they were assigned male at birth, Transformers, but and what the explanation that we get is that as Cybertronians went off-world and started interacting with other species, some Cybertronians discovered, but as a species it was rediscovering the fact that there could be more than one gender, and came back home thinking, actually, no, this is what I am, and using she, her pronouns, and identifying as female.
Yes, and I just have to say, this is really awesome, especially yesterday. This was something that I feel like a lot of people needed, I should actually share an anecdote. At my local comic book store where I go and pick up my books every Wednesday, one of the employees there is a transgender woman, and I was talking to another employee about Transformers, and and recommending. I was like, you should really read the IDW Transformers stuff. It's so good. This was also the same person that recommended Kim and Kim to me, which I gushed about in the last episode. So, very, very good. Very good person. And I was telling them, and then they mentioned that to the other employee, and then we all got to talking about just sort of and I was sort of explaining the way they've that they've addressed gender issues in Transformers, which is not something that people who are outside of Transformers just don't even realize that Transformers is capable of doing this kind of stuff. And it's like, and so it was actually a really great opportunity for me to discuss that fact with people, especially people who are not part of the fandom. And they were like, oh yeah, we're definitely going to check this out. Check out the first trade of More Than Meets the Eyes. And so it's like, this stuff is important, ladies and gentlemen. This is like, and that's why I love talking about these books.
Yeah. And it's worth pointing out as well that this issue in the credits, in fact, Rachel Stevens receives a credit as story consultant in this issue because Roberts did actually go out and I say go out, it like implies literally walking. So Roberts went and actually consulted with a trans woman whilst writing this issue, which kind of, it's nice to see, especially when kind of More Than Meets the Eye / Lost Light, well, More Than Meets the Eye issues in particular, I guess, but it is at times drawn criticism for sort of, I'll say kind of clumsily approaching some kind of real world issues, like the Scavengers 2-parter with was controversial because some people kind of weren't happy with the way that it approached the issue of disabilities, and people quite rightly said, like, come on, if you're going to write about this kind of thing, you kind of have to do the homework, mate. So it is kind of, it's gratifying to see that he is doing the homework, and he is sort of he is self-aware enough to know that he is not the person who knows how best to kind of approach this kind of subject, and that he's kind of gone and sort of done his homework.
And not only did he contact a trans woman, he contacted, probably one of the quote-unquote foremost experts on transgender Transformers, because Rachel Stevens had previously worked with Jim Sorensen and a friend of the podcast, Alexis Carlo, on Ask Vector Prime, when this very subject was addressed in Ask Vector Prime, and established that that in the Transformers multiverse there were characters like Howlback and Arceus. Is that the feathery?
Yes.
Yeah, and a non-binary overlord, which was an incredibly cool thing to do. So this is not only, and the thing, and Rachel Stevens, if you haven't read her work on Women Write About Comics, check it out. It's great stuff. She's a great writer, and she's also a Transformers fan who is intimately familiar with this universe. So she was the perfect person for James to contact, and I'm so glad he did it, because if he hadn't done that, I feel like this would not have turned out as well.
Yeah, kind of. I saw kind of lots of reactions on social media on kind of Wednesday, with people who are trans saying kind of like, that spoke to me of kind of like some of Anode's kind of dialogue there, which kind of, I guess, sort of, that's the sort of seal of approval, isn't it? That kind of it does align with people's experiences, at least some people's experiences.
Yeah,
and so kind of like we were saying just then, though, I feel it's worth pointing out that whilst this is kind of it's a first for the IDW universe, kind of directly addressing the idea of transgender Cybertronians, but it isn't a first for Transformers as a whole, because Ask Vector Prime, like we were discussing just now, did sort of it was kind of a whole answer almost addressing the subject, and I think earlier than that, because is Howlback the first time it was sort of addressed as a thing?
Yes, I think Howlback. Hellback and Recordicons by David Willis was the first, I believe, the first official transgender Transformer.
Which was kind of...
Not counting RC, of course, because...
Foreman era RC we shall just not speak of. But and Howlback actually kind of effectively was the sort of same explanation that's used here, because that was set in the Marvel Comics universe, which is also another Transformers universe where Simon Furman decided that there was no gender, but actually no, just there's one gender, and it's that they're all male, which the same explanation of once Transformers get out there into the universe and meet other species, they realise, oh wait, hang on, that's what I am.
Yeah, which also explains every female Transformer we've ever seen in flashbacks, like the Kimber and Stormer bots from the annual, RC and Alita 1 and Chromia from back in Megatron Origin.
Oh yeah, Alita 1 and Chromia, because of course they can't be
quote unquote. Yes, of course.
Definitive articles. There's a lot. Now lots of thoroughly canon, trans women hanging around in in Megatron Origin. Sorry. Yes. So which is cool.
Yeah. But of course, this issue wasn't all Anode and Lug. Although we do get to see Full Tilt. Right. It was Full Tilt, right? Or no, wait, no.
Oh, Wipeout.
Wipeout.
Yes.
I was thinking of Full Tilt's the other Trypticon car robot, right?
Well, Full Tilt is the one that's Trypticon's bra, as is often described.
Yeah. See that I feel like I get those two mixed up like constantly because of. But Wipeout shows up along with a classic character from the Marvel days, Flame.
Yeah, hands up, I didn't recognize Flame on sight.
I didn't either. I actually had to have it, it was other people that recognized it. And then I was like, wait, Flame? Goes to the wiki. Oh, okay, cool.
Because I think it is the design he has in Last Stand of the Wreckers, isn't it? But just he's in one panel in Last Stand of the Wreckers. I'd have recognised his Marvel design just because I've seen that enough times, but I didn't recognise his IDW design on sight.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I read Last Stand of the Records like everybody else, and I didn't recall this guy because but that was the thing. It was in one panel, but and we get a bit more back stuff on the blacksmiths, which we got in the first arc of Lost Light. And we get a bit more to do with the Knights of Cybertron and these five and sort of these five different splinter groups of followers of the Knights. One of which includes, when Flame shows up, a bunch of people decorated with one of these sigils of the Knights. So that's the thing. So we're getting back to the whole Knights of Cybertron myth quest thing, which was the thing that to me I felt like towards the tail end of season 2 I was like, can we get back to this thing please? And so it's finally we're getting back to it. So I'm looking forward to that.
I enjoyed in this issue the reveal that the techie that Anode and Lug have mentioned on occasion that they were working for when they got nearly blown up on the moon, was that techie is not someone's actual name. Techie, it is a nickname for the Grand Architect, who the prepare, confront, repel people that we saw in that Scavengers two-parter at the end. They had mentioned the Grand Architect, who it turns out is techie. And that it turns out that Anode and Lug had done work for the prepare, confront, repel people.
Yep.
Which I'm very intrigued now as to sort of what the deal with them in relation to the Knights of Cybertron is, because obviously Flame is not a Knight of Cybertron. But they are wearing kind of the symbol of what is apparently one of the clans, and so are these people who are sort of followers of the teaching of the Knights of Cybertron, or is there sort of some Knights of Cybertron back at their sort of headquarters that they answer to? It's intriguing. It's intriguing.
Yeah. Well, and there's also been that theory that these 5 symbols have some sort of connection to the guiding hand.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, isn't it?
Yeah, which I was looking up, and I do have to wonder, like, one of these symbols has, like, the spikes on the side and, like, at the top, so it's like, I mean, like, when I thought about it, I was like, wait, is that, like, a Mortalus? Is that like... Yeah, I mean, I was like, Mortalus is, so, I don't know, is one of these supposed to be, like, that's saying, like, the one in the middle, is it supposed to be like Solomus or something? You know, I don't know. I feel like there's something there, but what it is, not sure entirely.
See, it's like I'm looking at when they see them on the wall, I'm looking at the top middle symbol in the shape of that, and I am seeing movie Shockwave's face. So like, Nitro Zeus is a Knight of Cybertron. You heard it here first.
Hashtag confirmed.
Yeah, that's my theory. I'm sticking with it. Nitro Zeus as a Knight of Cybertron.
I mean, that is a pretty good, like, name for a knight. It's Nitro Zeus, the great Nitro Zeus. And he acts like completely the same as movie Nitro Zeus.
Oh, yeah.
Enrique! Enrique, tell your wife I said hi.
Actually, I tell you what, on the same pair of pages I'm looking at here, and I've just pulled up the wiki to confirm it. Wipeout is drawn directly based on the Necro Titan Master from the new Titans Return Triptychon. And Necro, of course, it's a new toy of Wipeout. But yeah, he is drawn here with specific details drawn from that toy, which is interesting, because it may just because Jack Lawrence in general likes to base people on toys. Well, I do quite like that as a thing. Like, what's his name? Agonizer, the merchant, is based on Six Shot, for instance.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like
I
saw that. I was like,
but yeah. So I do find myself wondering, like, is there some kind of weird Titans Return tie-in coming here, or is it just Jack Lawrence basing something on a toy, which he likes to do?
I feel like at this point, like with Lug and with Agonizer and now like Wipeout, I have to assume that's just a trick thing. Wait, but except this issue is not done by Jack Lawrence.
Oh wait, yeah, no. What am I saying? Yeah, it's done by
it's Prips. Prips is drawing. So yeah. So this, you do have to wonder though, like, if that's, or maybe this is something like James is like saying, like, oh, to make it easier on the artists, like, you know.
Well, no, like, James Roberts is kind of, I think, kind of thoroughly not a sort of a toy person these days. Yeah. He was tweeting the other day that I think he bought a Titans Return Getaway, which I think he was saying was his first Transformers toy he bought in years.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I wonder. I mean, clearly Triptychon is not going to suddenly turn up in this comic, not least because he's sort of underground on Cybertron at the minute. But yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Is Wipeout going to turn into Full Tilt's head next issue? Again, probably not, but it's interesting to see.
I mean, that's the thing. If Wipeout's a Titan Master, he must be a big Titan Master compared to the two we've seen in this universe. So, we've also gone this whole time without mentioning Nautica's storyline, which is that spoiler alert for the end of this issue. Like, we haven't already spoiled all these comics. She is looking for a way to bring Skids back to life by hiding his brain module in her eye socket.
No, Nautica, that's nasty. Don't do that, Nautica. Couldn't you just carry it in a bag? Or, no. I'm guessing it's something it's connected to a spark to keep it active or something. But yeah, that's yeah, I wasn't expecting that reveal.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's established that this device that she's looking for, is like can bring back like Cybertronians even without their spark, like just as long as they have like the body, and she at least has the next best thing, as she says. But Callum, do you think Skids is gonna come back to life?
I do not. I think we're going to get a sequence with Skids' ghost, effectively. Yeah, Nautica will get a chance to talk to Skids' ghost. And yeah, Skids will... Because the thing with Dying of the Light is that, yeah, we didn't really get a proper goodbye with Skids. It was incredibly sad. He just collapses whilst thinking that he's scum. And yeah. So what I think is going to happen is we're going to get a sort of ghost of Skids, and Nautica's going to be able to have a conversation with him, and he's going to come to terms with the fact that he was a good person, and Nautica is going to come to terms with the fact that Skids is dead, but I don't think he's actually going to come back to life.
Yeah, same. I hope he doesn't, at least. You know, it's like, not to say that we can't have characters coming back to life, but you know, I would much rather the times people die and stay dead outweigh the times they die and come back to life. So
yeah,
you know, and then the thing, and especially because it's so soon. You know, it's like, you know, Dying of the Light was, yes, it was a year ago at this point, but it's still. I mean that's in comic books, in the comic book time frame. Skids has been dead like a week, you know? It's like... But I feel like that, you know, even though we're a year out from it, it's like it's still like a little too soon to really, to reverse any of that, so... I'm certainly hoping that he... Yeah.
I fully expect a kind of goodbye Skids issue rather than a Skids is back issue.
Yeah. Well then, it's revolutionary time! Da, 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 da.
It's that special time of the 2 months late when we get to read Revolutionaries, and I want to say up front that listening to or reading a description of this issue does not really give you the proper experience of this issue.
No.
Because this issue is really cool in the way it is kind of structured. It's kind of a mixed media comic issue, effectively.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's 6 is up there for for possibly my favorite issue of Revolutionaries. It has some problems, but it's definitely up there, like, along with like number 3 for being like my favorite issue of Revolutionaries. Actually, no, probably my favorite is 5. But this is definitely a strong contender. This is definitely a strong contender. This is it's really the big guest star in this issue is Mike Power, the Atomic Man. The Adventure Team member, who was brought up in issue 3 as being sort of a key, like, plot point, because like his connection with the talisman and all that. So this issue goes into basically his entire backstory, where we learn that he was a kid detective in the Encyclopedia Brown kind of tradition, and then he found he found part of an Iron Soldier, an Iron Trooper, one of the creations of the talisman, and used that to build his atomic limbs, through which he used to join the G.I. Joe Adventure Team, in quite possibly the best page of this comic. Because one of the pages of this comic is a straight up reprint of a comic advertisement for the Adventure Team toys from back in 1975. And I love this.
It's so good. So yeah, to elaborate, this entire issue, the kind of the Atomic Man flashbacks are done in, sort of like I said at the start, a kind of a mixed media sort of style. So when he's a kid, we have kind of very kind of cartoon comic strip kind of kids comic looking pages drawn by Agnes Gabowska. And it is Mighty Mikey Power, Kid Detective. And so we've got kind of cute cartoon art. He's Kid Detective, finding lost bicycles, and solving the mystery of the haunted house. But turns out to be some smugglers who have. Well, actually, it's don't think it's said on the page in this issue, but according to the Atomic Man profile in the first issue of the source book, which I've now been able to go back and read, now that Revolutionaries 6 is finally out, they are Brasnian spies smuggling tech into America, and it was an Iron Trooper head.
Yes.
Neat kind of cameo there from one of the sort of 20th century action men with ridiculous dialogue.
Which, because there was some debate about this, but John did confirm on Twitter that it was the same action man that would later meet, that we saw in the Secret Raiders story, that met Colton and Mayhem. And that's the thing, and I was like, I was pretty sure that was the case because of the beret. Like, those are the only these are the only action men we've ever seen with berets, so I was like, I'm pretty sure they're the same guy. A lot of people were saying like, saying like that shouldn't be possible, but I'm like, I mean, we can assume that this action man is just pretty young, and that he was just, maybe he just lasted longer than people like Brogan did,
Yeah.
Maybe he's just one of the action men that lasted surprisingly long, and so he was into his like 40s or 50s by the time he died.
Well, kind of maybe this action man was the Ian of his day and started pretty young.
Yeah.
But actually, because the that looking back at it, that panel in Revolution 0 is just Colton and Mayhem, isn't it? So kind of there's some leeway in it, perhaps being kind of an earlier adventure of the Adventure Team.
Yeah.
So it's kind of it works.
Yeah. I do have to ask Callum, what did you think of Action Man's dialogue in the Mighty Mikey Power strips?
It's quite something, isn't it?
Cool, blimey. You'd best scamper off, you poor laddie. I got these boyos handled.
Like, for a minute, I was wondering if it was supposed to like read as a Scottish accent. But all the yees really confused me. But I think he's supposed to be like really Cockney, given the core blimeys and such. But then boyos is not really. It's an interesting mix of arbitrary UK slang. I'll say that. But so then, our flashbacks progress, and after those kind of kids comic kind of strips, we get a double-page spread that's this. Like, I wasn't expecting this when I I didn't physically flip the page because I read digital, but turn over to what's effectively sort of 2 pages out of sort of a children's storybook, where we've got one full page of art and then one full page of prose, continuing the story, which is it's a neat way of doing it. Actually, it reminds me of the jazz interview in another recent John Barber issue where we had sort of art and prose alongside it.
John has definitely, and I think this was, like, let me double check if this was, no, this was supposed to come out in May. So that's the thing. So I wonder if sort of the playing around with the mixed media idea in this influenced that, or if it was kind of or if it was kind of just a generated at the same time kind of idea, like, oh well, I could, like John was just like, I'd like to play around. I've already finished the script for Optimus Prime number 7, so I'll do something with 8. he definitely felt like he wanted to experiment with the format of the comics.
Yeah. So then we've got the reprinted advert, which is just like, that's brilliant. Yeah. And then a final couple more flashback pages with just Ron Joseph art, like we had in issue 3 for the previous Adventure Team flashbacks.
Yeah.
But so it ends up, it makes for a very kind of cool, format screw kind of experimental comic.
Yeah. And then Ron Joseph also draws the rest of the Action Man flashbacks. It's definitely a good mix. I like how Barber does that as well. Like Fico is pretty much always drawn the present day stuff, but when we go to the past, it's like it's Ron Joseph or it's Guido Guidi or somebody else, and I really like the mix of art. But of course, this. Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, actually, the regular cover for issue 7 went up on Previews World recently, and that seems to confirm that next issue has Fico Ossio, Ron Joseph, and Guido Guidi all on art.
Ooh. Cool. That'll be great.
And that is the Sergeant Savage issue, of course, which, I suppose we'll discuss in a minute.
Yeah. But of course, outside of Atomic Man, there is the Revolutionaries are also here. This issue teaming up with M.A.S.K. And I will say this is one of the criticisms I have for this issue is it really felt like John Barber had to squeeze M.A.S.K. in somewhere, and he picked this issue.
Yeah.
Because they're really pointless to be here. Like this thing, like they're there, and so they help out by providing like there's literally one scene where Ian Action Man while they're storming the Iron Army's base in Bosnia opens up a hatch full of water, which feels like that was just done because Barber was like, okay, I need something for the shark to do.
We get a situation that is contrived so that a submarine is useful.
Yeah.
Which, it doesn't particularly hurt the issue, but you do feel like kind of everything else could have had a bit more breathing room if M.A.S.K. weren't just kind of hanging around.
I can't help but feel like they could have put them in in another issue and that's the thing, and I feel like the same thing happened with in issue 4 with Snake Eyes. I really and granted maybe it wasn't as noticeable then because Snake Eyes is silent and all that, so it's not weird that he's just there fighting and not talking or anything, but you can't really do that with the M.A.S.K. guys, so it's it felt very much like they were crammed in, and it definitely felt like you could have gotten away with not including them, but their presence here really didn't hurt too much. It wasn't too. It didn't hurt the story too much, but and I will say another one of my criticisms was the fact that the pacing did feel off a little because of the mixed media format and showing Mike Powers his whole backstory. There's towards the end, Mike Power, he's strung up in this thing and he's controlling. Oh, one of the coolest parts of this issue though, did not expect to see it at all, but Mike Power controlling Hearts of Steel Optimus and Hearts of Steel Shockwave.
No, I don't think we kind of knew that was going to be a thing at all before this issue, did we?
Well, no. Well, that's the thing.
Before it came out, even.
Right. Well, that's the thing. There was it's because it's implied in the last issue that Centurion destroyed Hearts of Steel Shockwave, and that Dominus Major was just kind of... He was just kind of a lifeless corpse, you know? It's like... and was sort of seemed like the red herring for the whole Project Iceman thing, which I think really Project Iceman was supposed to be Mike Power, but you could probably interpret it either way.
But I will point out, though, now, if you look very closely at the art of fake Shockwave and fake Optimus Prime, and look particularly around their joints, you may notice something.
Oh, it's the Iron Troopers.
Yeah, they are corpses full of Iron Troopers again, just like we saw in the flashbacks. Yeah,
I didn't notice that. Holy crap!
I only just noticed it myself, kind of a few minutes ago whilst you were talking. But yeah, they are once again corpses stuffed full of Iron Troopers.
Man, that's kind of gruesome. Honestly.
Yeah,
but hey, they're robots, so you know it all. Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah,
but
I
feel like controlling the troopers.
Yeah, Mike Powers controls the troopers, and then like Action Man sort of goes to him, and the two have like kind of a heart to heart, and he's like, because Action Man's all like, or Atomic Man is very much, he's gone all kind of drunk with power, and all that, and so Action Man gives him a heart to heart and says, hey man, it's like, you gave up everything to make the world a better place. Why are you helping Krieger? He's a bad guy and all that. And Action Man's like thinks of smarts and just kind of keels over. I mean, it's not entirely clear. But Action Man just kind of, or not Action Man, Atomic Man. Yeah, Mike Power just kind of keels over and dies. Apparently, it's
I think he kind of switches himself off effectively.
Yeah,
I guess because I guess he's probably pretty old at this point, and yeah, you get the impression that he is basically just like I figure the idea is that he's only being kept alive by kind of all his atomic bits, and sort of when he sort of lets go and sort of stops trying to sort of control everything for Blitz. He sort of he sort of turns himself off effectively. And it's
well, I mean, he does look good for a man in his 60s.
Well, yeah, because I was thinking he's the Adventure Team was active in the 80s, so yeah, and if he was in his sort of 20s or 30s, then he's probably in his 60s or something, isn't he? Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's clearly that's what kind of atomic parts will do for you.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. And Krieger's was a war vet, was a World War II vet. So I mean, he was probably if we say he was in his 20s in the 40s. I mean, the dude's he's practically 100 now. So
yeah, Krieger's incredibly old. But yeah,
clearly he's still ticking with all of his robotic implants.
Yeah,
who knows?
Stuffed full of robot parts. Clearly, yeah.
Who knows though? Maybe it's maybe the talisman has some youth regenerative powers, and that's what's since Mike Power was literally connected to the talisman. Maybe that kind of kept him young.
No, actually, because we get a look at Krieger without his hat on, don't we? At the end of this issue, which reveals metal inside his skull.
Yeah. Which, I will say this for my whole, criticism of Action Man just kind of keels over and dies, or Atomic Man. Yeah. Here's a fun drinking game for you guys at home. Take a shot every time I say Action Man when I mean Atomic Man, or vice versa. Please don't. You'll probably die with how much I've been messing it up. But no, Atomic Man, just, the whole... I'm thinking, even though Ian says, I didn't think that would kill you, I'm truly sorry, Mike Power, I'm not entirely sure that Mike is dead. Because we still have that First Strike Optimus Prime cover which has Mike Power as a glowy... Now, the question is whether his body survives. And this was my thinking. My current theory is that... Because let's face it, he keels over, and Ian's all like, oh man, I didn't think that would kill you. But they don't really have time to actually check, because that's when Sergeant Savage shows up from the time portal. But so that's the thing. So either his body is dead, but his mind will remain, or he's not actually dead, and so like towards the end of the next issue, it'll be like it'll be like one of those things where he gets up and he's like, "I'm okay, everybody."
Actually, I perhaps wonder if he might wind up getting sort of, maybe he's dead, but will his maybe his body packed full of talisman-y parts, could it get like used as an avatar by the talisman or something?
Ooh, that's true. That's true.
Like do the whole sort of Primus through Hot Rod thing, except if Hot Rod were dead.
Yeah. Yeah. So overall, I mean, this was a fun issue. It got, it really it excelled best when it was focusing on like the Mike Power stuff, and the Revolutionary stuff did kind of suffer in the meantime of having to be the backbone of the Mike Power story, and for the inclusion of M.A.S.K and all that. But overall, I still really liked this issue. It's like, I will say if there's one thing that I would like to see out of a new Revolutionaries series, that like if the Revolutionaries get another series, I would say I'd like to see them without having to have guest stars every issue, because I feel like that would allow us to really see the team as themselves more, rather than as the Revolutionaries guest starring M.A.S.K, Centurion.
It's true. Because Cup and Blackrock are sort of deliberately sidelined for most of this issue, which I guess is just to keep kind of the cast more manageable.
Yeah.
So I know what you mean. In the kind of sometimes we haven't we could have gotten to know the sort of Revolutionaries as a team a bit more. Certainly.
Yeah. Well, because and here's some sad news. Next issue is the penultimate issue.
We do get a bumper length final issue at least. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. So, Revolutionaries number 7 next month, which will focus on Sergeant Savage, who shows up on the last page of this comic out of some sort of time portal.
Yeah, he's sort of standing among all the fake talismans you can see just in the background. It's sort of, all crackling with the talisman energy. And he has clearly come, on a time portal straight from the 90s. Because, it's totally a good moment to have a cow, man.
Yeah. I've been out, but booyah, I'm back. I'd usually be all like, whatever, but if there was ever a time to have a cow, this is it. So, what's up with that?
Yeah, I do love that, so Sergeant Savage, because his original whole thing was being basically Captain America, of course. He's a World War II soldier who wakes up in the present day, the original present day having been the 90s. So kind of, if you were being boring, the way to adapt that into a comic made today would just be, he comes from the 1940s to the present day. But instead what we're getting is that he went from the 1940s to the 90s, and now he's coming to the present day. So we've got a World War II soldier who speaks in 90s slang. And I'm really excited for next issue.
I'm excited to see that. Well, and what's funny, though, is consider that outside of his own series, Sergeant Savage, which, he was the star of, Sergeant Savage was also a character in G.I. Joe Extreme, which this comic has aped several times, but we saw it before in one of the best issues of the Van Lente run of G.I. Joe, which was issue 7, I believe, the CoverGirl issue.
Yeah.
Which I think that's one of the best issues of the Van Lente run. And, like, because we saw that reality show that CoverGirl was working for was called Survival Extreme and was hosted by Lieutenant Stone from G.I. Joe Extreme. Like, that whole thing was a riff on G.I. Joe Extreme, and I thought it was hilarious. So it's like, but not only that, but Sergeant Savage was also, remember, on the Axelon when it time traveled. Boom, Axelon, Beast Wars, the 90s, comes full circle.
True, yeah, and I hadn't thought of that kind of, that connection. But yeah, more 90s.
It's all circular. Anything else that you'd like to talk about with Revolutionaries number 6?
I'm just thinking, were there anything... Actually, we talked a bunch about the sort of flashback arc, but sort of Fico Ossio and Sebastian Cheng do sort of lovely work, as usual. All the water in this issue. I mean, yeah, here's a good reason. In addition to, so that we need a submarine, just also so that the art team can show off, because all the water in particular looks really gorgeous, whilst it's sort of flooding into the base and splashing around. It's all very nice to look at.
Yes. Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, Fico and Sebastian, they bring it every month, and it is great to see. Mm-hmm. I am so glad. Presumably Sebastian's sticking around, but we know Fico is. Yeah. So glad they're sticking around for Visionaries. I think they're going to kill it on Visionaries when that book comes out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and something else I'd like to say. The shark is blue.
Oh, yes. Shark colors. So
the shark is once more blue. I think we can say that's now its sort of official color.
Yeah,
outside of like, when you don't take into account the way it first appeared, or actually no, because it first appeared orange, didn't it? So I can't even say that it first appeared white. So.
No, that is true.
So yeah, I just find that funny, and one of these days I just want a writer to just say it has color changing technology or something. It has cloaking technology, something, anything to explain that, because that still bugs my brain to this day.
Actually, one thing we should mention, which I've tweeted about it from the show's account the other day, or several days ago, by the time I listened to this. But in addition to the Atomic Man comic that is used in this issue, I realised the other day that there was another similar comic book ad for Bullet Man, in which Bullet Man saves a town from a flood.
Yes, which was his backstory in the Hasbro Heroes sourcebook, which was one of those things where I had found that old Bullet Man comic like way back, and for whatever reason I just did not think to mention it when we talked about the Hasbro Heroes sourcebook. But that's the thing, that whole Bullet Man comic, which you can read in full on our Twitter page right now at Hasbro U Podcast, could basically be slotted right into continuity with the rest of the universe. So between that and this page being literally printed in the comic, I do have to wonder, does that mean all of the G.I. Joe Adventure Team comic ads are canon to the Hasbro universe?
Well, no, as far as I can find, there's only one more that's kind of an actual ad, rather than being like a comic that was packed in with something, and that features the Intruders, which have yet to be established as a thing in IDW.
Yes, they did appear on that cover to issue 5, though.
Oh, true.
And Miles Mayhem did allude to fighting intruders back in the Revolution Prelude.
Yeah, so he did.
I'm just saying, I calls it like I sees it, Callum.
Yeah. But then, actually, yes, that, if I remember right as well, that ad also features like some kind of separate adventure team commander who isn't G.I. Joe.
Yeah, true.
I mean, technically nothing contradicts that.
I mean, this issue features Colton, like the ad features Colton, Power, but then it also features one guy, like one African American soldier with an afro and a beard, which sure doesn't look like Stalker. Just saying. And it also features...
Actually, yeah, 2 extra guys.
Yeah. So clearly what we need just a full-on adventure team series to establish all this. So just, to just tell us the full story of the adventure team. IDW, if you're listening, David Hedgecock, you can find... you can email us. Our email is on our page, and we will happily do this, or at least I will. I can't speak for Callum. But hey, if you want us to write an adventure team book, we will happily do it.
Well, actually, in the name of pointing out further sort of Hasbro trivia, I'll point out, because I did not clock it, because my Joe knowledge isn't that wide, but flashback page in which the adventure team attempts to save a Dr. Emil Burkhart from... He's strapped to a rocket, isn't he, which then explodes. But yeah, so he himself is not an existing character, but his daughter, who goes unnamed in the issue, but is clearly intended to be Adele Burkhart, who is a G.I. Joe character, a Marvel original G.I. Joe supporting character. I believe he's in the first issue of Marvel Joe, and then several others, I believe. But yeah, so that... Because as soon as I read kind of that guy being given a specific name, I was like, okay, well, that's clearly somebody. Like, this is John Barber we're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
That's a reference of something.
Yeah. I mean, we also didn't mention how Mikey Power, how he has a dog sidekick when he was a kid detective.
Gosh, yeah.
Named Smarts, based on Lucky Smarts from the Pound Puppies.
Yeah, so the recent Pound Puppies cartoon that aired only on the Hub.
Only on the Hub. But can we just say, Smarts has, this is a sad issue, because that whole page that sort of explains how Mike built his atomic arms and all that is a really sad page. It's the whole story beat is really sad, and I think one of the saddest parts though is when it says when it tells us the fate of Smarts, who ended up running away because Mike no longer Mikey. He was so focused on building his atomic limbs that Smarts got neglected, and then Mikey's parents didn't have time to take care of him either, and Smarts decided to run away from home.
But I mean, he clearly made that's when he meets all the other Pound Puppies, though, clearly, and starts having adventures. So it's fine. It's fine.
But I mean, that's such a sad origin for Lucky Smarts, though.
It is. It is.
Why do you do this to us, Barber? God. I mean, I thought last issue of Optimus Prime was bad. Jesus. That's the thing. Okay,
dear.
Barber has had 3 books out this month: Optimus Prime #9, Shining Armor #1, and Revolutionaries #6, and all of them have been pretty sad in various ways. I'm do we need to call John? Do you need to talk to somebody? Do you need to talk to us? Come on the show. We'll talk to you. We'll just air it all out.
Dear.
But I think that will just about wrap it up, because I think we've discussed everything we can about Revolutionaries #6. So yeah, that'll just about wrap this podcast up. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us for another episode of Action and Adventure. Before we head out, Callum, what is on our docket for next week?
So, judging by Comixology's current kind of predictions, in 2 weeks' time we're going to be talking about Hasbro Heroes Sourcebook #2, Till All Are One #12, final regular issue to be followed by the annual later this year, First Strike #1, and Clue #3.
Oh yes, so we have... Yeah, so that's going to be quite the lineup. We have the first issue of First Strike to talk about. So, and of course that will be following after the last issue of Till All Are One. So, should make for good stuff.
Yeah, and well, assuming all goes to plan, I will probably be recording that episode live from Birmingham. Just after TF Nation finishes that Sunday.
TF Nation!
So yeah, to, I suppose, begin the introduction, you can find me on Twitter and Allspark and such as Jala Guy, but you can also find me at TF Nation in 2 weekends' time.
Yes,
I'm trying to think now whether it's 2 weekends by the time this episode comes out. On the weekend that TF Nation is on, you can find me there.
Yes, if you're at TF Nation, please find Callum, say and tell him this very specific phrase. All right, all for one and one for all. Okay, can you do that? Can you do that? All right. Excellent. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen who have been, and non-binary folks who have been listening to this episode and will be at TF Nation. Is there anywhere else that they can find you on the internet, Callum?
Yeah, been all over, Tumblr too. Always under the name Jala Guy. I'm simple like that.
Yes. You can find me on Twitter. I'm pretty much always on Twitter. I actually, probably have a problem because I'm always on Twitter. But you can find me at Daniel Adkins PRD on Twitter. I'm also around on Tumblr and, of course, as always, my YouTube channel where I talk about comic books and try to, think about them with the smarts brains. So, yeah. And of course, you can find me around on the IDW Hasbro Wiki and the TF Wiki, where I'm constantly editing stuff. And of course, you can continue to follow our show, the Hasbro Universe Podcast, at Hasbro U Podcast on Twitter. You can find us on our Tumblr. You can find, which is also Hasbro Universe Podcast. You can find us on Libsyn at hasbrouniverse.libsyn.com. And of course, just recently started today, when we're recording this, we now have a YouTube channel where we are posting all of our podcasts in full on YouTube, so you can listen to it there. You can find us on iTunes, and you can find us on Google Play. And if you are listening to us on iTunes, please be sure to rate and review our show, because that's a super big way to help us out, and it is one of the best ways you can support us. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Have a great night.
Have a great night also. Goodbye.
Peace out.